The GDP numbers are out, and we are seeing a 2.9% growth for quarter four. However, many of our economists are looking at this and saying that a recession is imminent, regardless of the fact that we're seeing growth like this, and of course ignoring the recession that we already had last year. But we will talk about that, what this means, and what we can do to prepare coming up in the near future. In other news, authorities begin preparing for riots after 5 police officers are accused of murder over the release of Tyre Nichols' data. So we'll be talking just a bit about that and what I anticipate to happen with this, and a little bit of interest in this story, given the fact that it does seem like more and more of the Trump tactics are coming out against Joe Biden. But we'll talk about that, what that means, and where we go with that. Adam Schiff announces that he is going to join the Senate because, well, I guess he just can't go without being on an intelligence committee, so he's going to hope that Chuck Schumer will give him a position in intelligence instead of Kevin McCarthy. And Tesla plans a $3.6 billion expansion of the Nevada Gigafactory, all the while Google is laying people off who are complaining about it. It is going to be all this and more. I got more votes than Kevin McCarthy. I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. You know, I think that's a sign that at some point here I should probably go back and finish out my Legend of Zelda run with the Dark World theme being the opening as we go here, because, we got stuck in the dungeon, but I also had to move, and I think I can pick right back up where we left off, but it has been quite a while since we've done a game stream, and there are so many more games that I want to play. Like, seriously. I've got Assassin's Creed on deck. I want to play that one for you guys as well. It has been a little bit trying, I can say that, just on all the things that we've had to do since the move, and I still have to come back and find an actual good time to go back and do game streaming because, well, as you guys know, I pretty much work from the time I get up till the time I go to bed, but we'll find a way. I haven't played a video game since I moved. I put a mod on Fallout 4 and played it for about 5 minutes to test it, and that's the last time I played a PC game, which is lame because I love PC gaming, but we'll figure something out. We'll see where this goes and what happens with this, but on to the news here today. Welcome to your evening news. My name is Jay Edgar. This is Contemporary. We've got a lot to go over here today, including a bunch of stuff that I was able to pull. I was about to go live and I just looked in another Discord server. I'm like, oh, I'm going to take this, I'm going to take this, I'm going to take this, I'm going to take this. And I thought it was actually going to be a slow news night tonight, but, all that I just added put a whole bunch more onto the news, and we might fill 2 hours here tonight. Plus, we've got things I like and things that I hate tonight, too, which that's always a fun thing. The thing I like is a two-parter. It's technically one thing, but it's a two-parter, and I just think that that's hilarious. But we're going to get into it. Before we get started, make sure you guys go check out great programming, such as The Daily Ignoramus, The Breakdown with Birkenhoff, The R-Rated Conservative, The Porch Boys. Go check out Tweets by Brit, Mr. Behavior, The No Gimmicks Podcast, and more as we attempt to bring you a better news and culture experience from the common man for the common man. That is right. Too many of us get too much of our news and culture from people who have houses we'll never even be able to afford to step into, and who wear suits that cost more than our houses, the ones that we currently have. So get a better news experience. Get a news experience from people who've had to make some of the same decisions you have, and go check out all those great creators that I brought up. As you know, I'm working now. One of the big goals coming up here is to try to get the website this year. I technically have the website, but I actually get it launched, get maybe a fundraiser going and get some of the costs offset, but also, put some of it in myself now that I can afford it, now that I'm not sitting at the bottom of the barrel again. But we'll see what happens with that. But go check out all those great creators. Speaking of finance, we're going to get into that and see what that's doing for the day. A little bit of news and a little bit of shake on that, but definitely some more news on the GDP front, and let's see what's happening today. Starting with the Dow. The Dow Jones Industrial Average closed today at 33,949.41 after having another slight increase. Didn't even crest a percentage point on the increase. It did spend part of the morning down, coming down. It shot up on the futures and then it collapsed almost immediately. Shot up again and collapsed, and then just went back onto a steady increase throughout the day. And a lot of that is coming off the fact that, oh yes, we did manage to somehow squeak out 2.9% gain on the GDP. And people are celebrating this, like I said on the title card, like this is a 5% gain, like our economy is kicking into full gear. And it really isn't, I'm sorry to say, but we're not there. It's stagnant. Joe Biden just got a year. 2 years, I think. I'd have to go remember what the year measure was for 2021, but I know he just got a year that he didn't even break 3%. Did he break even last year? I don't even know. We'll have to do the calculations and see what the year average is, but I know that he had 2 quarters of decline as well, so I'd be interested to see what the year looks like for that, but that's what we have for that. Looking in at your Bitcoin, that lost $60 today. $60 even on the Bitcoin exchange, ending the day at $22,999 US and 50 US cents. Couldn't quite crest 23,000, even though it did spend most of the day up above that mark. A little bit of a waver. It started up and it went up in the beginning of the trading, fell off throughout the day, tried to make a rally again, and then just kind of bounced throughout the rest of the day. So we will continue to watch and see what's happening with the Bitcoin, what happens there. Your gas prices in the Madison area, the gas prices we check every day, are completely unchanged right now, so we don't have to go over a lot of that. Still sitting in the same place that they were yesterday, which is a reprieve, because it does look like some other areas around Wisconsin are starting to go up. Remember, these gas prices do not reflect your local gas prices. Always check Gas Buddy or a similar service in your area to see what your local prices are. This is a chart that we've been monitoring for 3 years now to see what the gas prices have been doing, so that's what we have for that. Let's grab one from IBD and let's get into the news of the day. From Investors Business Daily, Dow Futures market rallies up to big test. Intel plunges, and an advertisement. Intel plunges late, from Ed Carson. The Dow fell modestly after hours along with the S&P and the Nasdaq futures, with the key inflation data due Friday morning. Intel and Visa reported after hours, with 2 more Dow components, Chevron and American Express, due early Friday. Along with chip gear maker KLA Corp, that's 5 stocks that closed near buy points with earnings due before the opening bell. The stock market rally continued to advance Thursday amid a barrage of earnings reports and economic data. The major indices closed near highs for a 5th straight session and are on the verge of breaking through some major resistance. Tesla was a big earnings winner, soaring on CEO Elon Musk's bullish comments about 2023. Fellow megacaps Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Nvidia, Alphabet, and Meta all had solid to strong gains. None of these stocks is in position, with only Nvidia above its 200-day line. Still, Thursday's gains were broad-based. KLA topped views, but the chip equipment maker guided lower. KLAC stock fell solidly after hours. Shares rose 1.45% to 428.76 on Thursday. That was still above a 419.67 handle buy point from a long consolidation, but KLAC stock is set to undercut on Friday. Intel earnings fell short, and the ailing chip giant guided sharply lower for Q1. Intel stock plunged in an extended trade. Shares advanced 1.3% to 30.09 on Thursday. Intel stock is working on a 30.48 cup with handle base that mostly formed above the 50-day line, but the chip giant is well below its 200-day line. It's been a long time since Intel was a true market leader. Visa earnings topped fiscal quarter 1 forecasts. Visa stock rose slightly in overnight action. Shares edged down 0.1% to $224.71 on Thursday, following a better than expected earnings from arch rival MasterCard. Visa is still in range from a 220.08 buy point. Chevron is on tap on Friday morning, but Chevron stock gapped up 4.9% on Thursday to 187.79, racing above the early entry of 182.65. It's not far from the official buy point of 189.78 from a flat base late Wednesday. The Dow energy giant announced a $75 billion buyback as well as a 6% dividend increase. American Express dipped 0.6 to 155.88 Thursday, ahead of earnings, holding above its 200-day line. Wow, I got a little bit dyslexic there. American Express has a 161.65 buy point from a bottoming base. Investors could use a move above Thursday's high of 158.23 as an early entry. On the inflation, in December, the PCE price index, the Fed's favorite inflation gauge, is due out at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time for tomorrow as part of the Commerce Department's income and spending report. Economists expect the PCE price index to be flat versus November. I don't know if you're going to get that lucky, with the PCE inflation rate cooling to 5% from 5.5%. Core PCE prices are seen rising 0.3%, with the inflation rate slipping to 4.4% from 4.7%. Jerome Powell recently stated he's focusing on core services prices, excluding housing. Thursday's GDP report showed that core PCE services minus housing rose at a 4.7% annual rate in quarter 4. The 12-month supercore inflation rate picked up from 4.4% to 4.2%. On your futures, Dow futures dipped 0.2 versus fair value, the S&P declined 0.3, and the Nasdaq fell 0.55. Intel stock is a Dow Jones, S&P, and Nasdaq component, though it doesn't have as much weight as it once did. Visa, Chevron, and American Express are Dow Jones S&P 500's components. And remember, overnight action in Dow futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading in the next regular stock market session. A lot of stuff moved, and even with what we saw with GDP, the futures are looking and pointing lower right now, so there's a lot to digest with this. I'm going to say that tomorrow is going to break the win streak. This is not official financial advice, but this is just from seeing patterns and for what it's worth when we look at what happened and what's happened over the last year. A 2.9% gain, all trolling aside, is a very good number. But with that being said, when we look at this and the fact that we are flashing recessionary signals right now, this is not a place where I don't think the investors want to be trying to throw investment cash into places that are going to be laying people off and struggling to make ends meet. So we will continue to watch this, of course. Nobody has a crystal ball. We can't see the future. Let's grab one from the Daily Wire, talking about gas prices. Here is where gas prices are eating into residents' incomes the most. From Ben Ziesloft. Gas prices relative to local incomes are highest in Nevada and other states in the western part of the country, according to an analysis from High Road. The insurance company compared localized fuel price data from GasBuddy with the average hourly salary data from BLS, thereby revealing where Americans are spending the largest portions of their earnings to fill their vehicles. 1 gallon of gas in Nevada will cost 29.6% of the typical worker's salary for an hour. According to the analysis, residents of neighboring Idaho are spending 27.3% of an hour's salary on each gallon of gas. In Nevada, drivers can also expect to spend more annually on gas than drivers in Idaho, despite the fact that Idahoans are expected to have a higher local driving distance per year on average, the company said. Nevadans find themselves again on the wrong side of the gas affordability spectrum. Other states with exceedingly high gas prices relative to wages are California, obviously, but California has huge wages because the cost of living is so big. And I don't know if they count income tax into that either. That would be an interesting measure to go. Is income tax accounted into that? How much you take away? I know that they're talking hourly wage, so I don't know if that's something that we see. Indiana, Hawaii, and Arizona. While the states with the most affordable gas relative to wages are Massachusetts, which is a shock. Gas is always more expensive in Mass. Colorado, Virginia, North Dakota, and Minnesota. Oregon, Nevada, Indiana, Alaska, and Washington saw rises in relative gas prices higher than 4% between 2021 and 2022. I will say, whenever I can, I do go over and get my fuel in Minnesota. Being right on the border like I am, and typically crossing into Minnesota to travel north because of the highway and not having to go through all the little small towns in order to do so, I typically, if I can, get gas in Minnesota, and that's not always something that I can do. But if I can, yeah, I'll go grab it in. Well, I'm not going to say the city, obviously, but I'll go grab it on that side of the border. Residents of western states also spend the most overall on fuel consumption. The average driver in Wyoming, a sparsely populated, largely rural state, with fewer remote jobs than elsewhere in the country, will spend an average of $2,233 on gas each year, according to the analysis. Indiana, however, saw the largest increase with respect to total annual expenditures. Residents spent an extra $363 on fuel between 2021 and 2022. It is not Woodbury. I don't even know where that is. I've heard that name, I just don't know where it is. More granular local data reveal that localities in California cities spend the greatest share of the hourly earnings on fuel, followed by municipalities in other western states such as Colorado and Idaho. Wow, I can read today. Ohio's not even a western state. Ohio doesn't even exist. Perhaps unsurprisingly, California has the most metro areas where drivers can expect to spend the biggest chunk of their average hourly salary on a gallon of gas. The analysis said, in fact, 4 of the top 5 spots are taken by Californian metro areas. Which is all true, but do keep in mind that a lot of the time, if you don't want to drive in Los Angeles or San Francisco or Sacramento or any number of other major metropolitan areas in California, you don't have to. Most of the time, most people want to as a status symbol, but you don't have to. I mean, San Francisco is known for having a robust mass transit trolley system. National average gas prices are currently $3.52 a gallon, according to data from the Energy Information Admin, reflecting a rapid increase from $3.33 earlier this month and $3.42 at the same time last year. The current national average price per gallon is 48% higher than the price recorded at the start of the Biden admin. White House Press Secretary Token Diversity Hire nevertheless claimed on Monday that House Republicans are using their narrow majority to force the American people to pay higher gas prices just as big oil companies are amassing record profits. Are you stupid? How? Nothing? Okay, I want to remind everybody, nothing the House is going to do is going to pass the Senate. There is literally zero way for Republicans to raise gas prices. There really isn't much of a way to do that anyway. Oh my god, is this one stupid? Tell me I have video of this. No, there's no video on that one. I was hoping. Well, and it is a struggle. And I do want to remind you all where we were. While our wages were not necessarily going up, but while we were sitting in the position where Saudi Arabia and the countries surrounding it flooded the market with oil, at the same time, most of us weren't going anywhere. And all that fuel, 91 cents, that was the lowest I saw it in Wisconsin. It might have got lower in Minnesota, but I saw it at 91 cents. And I was impressed. And I didn't have a remote job, so I still had to go to work. But throw the fuel in the truck at 91 cents a gallon and just drive. And have all kinds of other money to do other stuff with. I maybe spent a little bit more than I should have at the time instead of saving it. But I was saving quite a bit of money too at the time. So that is what we see coming off of that. Let's talk GDP. Starting with CNBC. U.S. GDP rose 2.9% in the fourth quarter, more than expected, even as recession fears loom. From Jeff Cox. So GDP didn't keep up with inflation, by the way, just so you know, just to point that out. The U.S. economy finished 2022 in solid shape, even as questions persist over whether growth will turn negative in the year ahead. Fourth quarter gross domestic product, the sum of all goods and services produced for the October to December period, rose at a 2.9% annualized pace. The Commerce Department reported on Thursday economists surveyed by the Dow Jones expected a reading of 2.8%. I know they have to go back run out and show that one, 2022 quarter 2, but I'm surprised they show this one here. Because, I mean, you lost 30% on quarter 2 for obvious reasons, but then by quarter 3 you're already jumping up well over that amount again. Stocks turned mixed following the report, while Treasury yields were mostly higher. Consumer spending, which accounts for 68% of GDP, increased 2.1% for the period, down slightly from 2.3% in the previous period, but still positive. Inflation readings moved considerably lower to end the year after hitting a 41-year high in the summer. The Personal Consumption Expenditures Price Index increased 3.2%, in line with expectations, but down sharply from 4.8% in the third quarter, excluding food and energy. The chain-weighted index rose 3.9%, down from 4.7%. Now, I do want to remind everybody, of course, and I say this every time they talk about inflation and say, oh, inflation is cooling, inflation is cooling. Do remember that no matter what the number is, month over month, year over year, you're inflating this on top of inflation that's exceeding, at this point, 6 to 7% at this time last year. Inflation has no place to go but flat, and it's not even flattening that much. It's flattening slightly, but it's still going up. It's still huge. We really need to see some negative inflation for a quarter. And you know how much the economy is going to boom if that happens? I don't either, but I'd be willing to bet there are a lot of people that are going to run out and spend a bunch of money, especially, I think a lot of people would go out, and this is just me spitballing at this point. I'm not an economist, but my big thing is, especially if you started to see negative inflation for 3 months in a row, a lot of people probably have some broken things in their home that they would start replacing. And I would say that a lot of people would probably run out and start doing home improvement projects too. Start looking at the price, say, oh, it's like it's on sale. Because they got so used to, for 3 years, the prices being as insane as they were. And some of us did, by the way, also get a major pay raise in the midst of it. Some of us managed to do that. It's shocking in this economy, but some of us managed to have it happen. While the inflation numbers are indicated price increases are receding, they remain well above the Federal Reserve's 2% target. They're not receding. Along with a boost from consumers, increases in private inventory investments, government spending, and non-residential fixed income helped lift the GDP number. Yeah, government spending helped a lot. That's the other part of this. We spent more money via the government in this past Congress than any time that I can remember in my lifetime. And I was born under the Reagan years. a 26.7% plunge in residential fixed investment, reflecting a sharp slide in housing served as a drag on the growth number, as did a 1.3% decline in exports. The housing drop subtracted about 1.3 percentage points from the headline GDP number. Federal government spending rose 6.2%, due largely to an 11.2% surge on non-defense outlays. While state and local expenditures were up 2.3%, government spending in total added 0.64% to the GDP. So there you go, we're positive. Not very much, but we're positive. Yeah. Oh, yeah, good call, Grant. IRS warns tax refunds may be somewhat lower with inflation. It's a double whammy, says advisor. Well, yeah, it's because they're going to tax you more. But with the growth, we also have to look at the other side. From Fox Business, GDP report reveals ominous Great Depression warning signs not seen since 1932. From EJ Antoni. Before I get into this, I want to just point one thing out. It is, with the way that our economy is set up, with the digital footprint, I'm not going to say it's impossible to get into a Great Depression because I don't have a crystal ball, I don't know. But I think it would take, from what I've seen, and especially the digital economy as well, I think it would almost take an act of God at this point to get us back to where we were during the Great Depression. And I'm basing this on a few things. Number one, a greater global outreach for everybody. Many of us have the ability to reach beyond for customers much further than our ancestors did in the 20s and 30s, which means that we don't have to struggle and work with company towns and hope that there is work in the company towns and people to sell to in the company towns. We're not limited in that aspect like we were in the 20s and 30s. Transportation is huge, and pretty much any guy out there, and women too, I'm not going to be sexist about this, but pretty much any guy can pick up a wrench and make it work. Not maybe very well, but make it work for a few months, or get into a truck and start driving. It does cost a lot, as Luke Wee has pointed out, to go and get a CDL right now. But if you can muster up the money and the cash, or find a company that's willing to sponsor you, especially in a position where we need to, there are jobs out there. There are abilities for people to go back out there and make ends meet, whether they're pretty or not. And furthermore, and I do hate to bring this in because this would seem extremely sexist out there, but the OnlyFans economy really is going to hold us out of a depression. As much as it pains me to say it, I think that's going to be the biggest thing that's going to go out there, because sad sack simps will drive themselves into financial ruin and dire straits to go out and see and get that personalized experience from that OnlyFans girl, which she will turn around and seed into the economy in the form of buying houses, buying goods, services, and even treating some special lucky guy to a lavish lifestyle. It's terrifying, it's horrifying to say, but it does exist. And again, I'm not going to say that it's impossible for us to get into a Great Depression, but it's going to be a lot harder this time through. Let's keep going here. The latest numbers from the Bureau of Economic Analysis show the U.S. economy grew by 2.9% in the fourth quarter of last year and 2.1% for 2022. While the White House was quick to take credit for the state of the nation's economy, they might want to think twice. This latest report should have alarm bells ringing, not trumpets sounding. That's because economic growth is slowing down. Even the areas which contributed positively to the GDP are not necessarily signs of prosperity. For example, business investment grew at only 1.4% in the fourth quarter, but that was almost entirely inventory growth. Non-residential investment, a key driver of future economic growth, was up just 0.7%. Meanwhile, residential investment fell off a cliff, dropping 26.7% as consumers were unable to afford the combination of high home prices, high interest rates, and falling real incomes. No wonder homeownership affordability has fallen to the lowest level in that metric's history. And by the way, that is just 10 years after we lived through the first Great Recession that pushed home affordability out of most of our hands. Let's see, but the growth in inventories, which accounted for half the GDP growth in the fourth quarter, is not a good sign either. It is the result of businesses being unable to sell off existing inventories at current prices. Liquidating that inventory at discounts will mean lower profits, a further drag on future growth. That is definitely something to pay attention to right now, by the way. Another positive contributor to the GDP number was net exports, which simply exports minus imports. But the gain here resulted from a slowdown in international trade, hardly a sign of wealth for Americans. Instead, imports are simply falling faster than exports, which shows up as an increase in GDP. To see why, imagine your hours have been cut back at work. You're now earning $100 less a week, so you decide to reduce your weekly spending by $105. Your budget then shows a net increase of $5 left over at the end of the week. Your earnings are like exports, your spending like imports, and the overall change to your budget is like net exports. That is a painfully simplified way to put a very complex, what's the word I'm looking for? A very complex system, simplified down to very, very simple terms, almost too simple. So even though you're worse off, just going by the change to your budget, you appear to be better off. That is exactly what happened in net exports in the GDP report. But perhaps the most troubling is the precipitous drop in real disposable income, which fell over $1 trillion in 2022. For context, this is the second largest percentage drop in real disposable income ever, behind only 1932, the worst year of the Great Depression. To keep up with inflation, consumers are depleting their savings and burning through stimulus checks they received during 2020 and 2021. Credit card debt continues growing, while savings plummeted $1.6 trillion last year, falling below 2009 levels. As consumers continue depleting cash reserves and borrowing costs are rising, the growth in consumer spending will keep slowing. Since that accounts for roughly 2/3 of GDP, this doesn't bode well for the economy. Just how much pain is the consumer feeling? The average family has lost about $600 in annual purchasing power under Biden because prices have risen so much faster than wages. Higher interest rates have increased annual borrowing costs by $1,400, so that the average family effectively has $7,400 less in their annual budget. But that's just the average. Someone's trying to buy a median-priced home today will have a monthly mortgage payment that's 80% higher than when Biden took office. That means spending an extra $9,500 a year for the same house. It's no wonder people are financially strapped and taking on second or third jobs in this economy. Meanwhile, federal non-defense spending grew 11.2% in the fourth quarter, another example of politicians feeding the federal budget while starving the family budget. Which, by the way, is what I warned about when the omnibus came out. If you've ever driven a car that's run out of gas, you may have noticed the engine rev up right before stalling out. That seems to be what we were witnessing with the economy, an engine running on fumes about to stop. The last thing America needs is more taxing, spending, and regulation by the federal government. Instead, we need to follow the winning formula laid out by President Reagan and Fed Chair Volcker, which brought the economy back from stagflation. Reagan scaled back the government, while Volcker stopped the monetary manipulation and allowed interest rates to seek their natural level. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen in this particular Congress, with this particular government. And what's even worse about it is the previous president spent us even further. So we got a lot to think about, and I remind you, do what you can. Go out, see if you can get something canned. Grab an extra can of Spam every time you're in the grocery store. Don't depend on something frozen, depend on something you can throw in the cupboard and forget about. It's going to get rough. I don't think that we can get into a depression, but it is going to get rough. So that's where we're at with that. Let's grab one from the Daily Wire. Inflation is slowing, but grocery prices anticipated to remain high in 2023. From Charlotte Pence Bond. Americans are still feeling the pinch at the grocery store, even with inflation slightly decreasing, and prices will likely still be high in 2023. Food costs are anticipated to rise, but at a slower rate than in 2022, according to the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Prices will continue to be higher than the historical averages. The USDA's Economic Research Service pointed out that last year, the cost of food increased by 9.9%, whereas groceries rose 11.4%, while eating out costs went up 7.7%. In 2023, the USDA expects to see total food costs rise by 7.1%. Groceries are likely to increase by 8%, and the cost of dining out is expected to go up by 8.2%. For 8 specific food groups, the prices are projected to continue rising, even as those food items saw increases for the duration of last year. Next year, costs for other meats are expected to go up 12.8%, dairy items at 8%, fats and oils at 16.5%, and processed vegetables and fruits at 9.6%. In addition, sweet items and sugar will increase by 10.6%, which is shocking because that's usually what they try to keep the cheapest, to keep the population obese and under control. Bakery items and cereals will go up 12%, non-alcoholic drinks will rise 8.7%, and other food items will cost 6.8% more. What is keeping this down to 7.1%? Because, except for the other food items, everything on this list is well above 7.1%. The CPI went up 6.5% during the past year in December, at a measurement that wasn't seasonally adjusted, and it also went down 0.1% seasonally adjusted. While the CPI was lower than where it was at 7.1% in November, the prices of certain items are still making life difficult for many Americans. According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, the Consumer Price Index for food increased by 10.4% over the past year, the most of any other main category in the December data. Specifically, food in the home, groceries went up 11.8%, whereas prices for eating out rose 8.3%. And a part of that is, again, by the way, restaurateurs making the hard decision to cut some of their profit margin just to keep people coming in the door. The cost of eggs has been a serious concern for the past several weeks, and consumers around the country have been hit by high prices. Last month, the cost of eggs went up 11.1% and was 59.9% more than in December of 2021. This year, egg costs are expected to go up 27.3%, so keep that in mind as you're making your breakfast. Agricultural outlet Successful Farming pointed to a University of Illinois Farm Doc Daily blog that noted how farm costs have increased more quickly than the average costs of the U.S. during the current century. In the latter half of the last century, they went up less than the average consumer and producer costs, according to the authors. Both ag and economics experts, this means that the cost of farming will probably not soften inflation in the U.S. going forward. So, that's one thing, and I mean, you're never not going to need to eat. And this is, again, a big part of where they're hitting you. But this is going to be the stagnating effect that goes into the rest of the economy. Unless we have some major economic turnaround, the stagnating effect is going to be that, okay, everybody needs to eat. Those prices are fixed, and yeah, they're going to go up because of the fact that, I mean, you can't get away from it. You can, again, leave that big screen TV, that new toaster oven. You can leave those home repairs behind. You can put those off for a little while. You can put off buying the new truck. You still need to eat. And that is where this is going to drive into your wallet. Let's talk about Tyre Nichols. From the BBC, 5 Memphis police officers charged over death. From Sam Cabral, 5 ex-police officers have been charged with second-degree murder after a man died following a traffic stop in Memphis. Tyre Nichols, 29, died 3 days after his arrest on January 7th for alleged reckless driving. The officers, who are all black, also face charges of aggravated assault, aggravated kidnapping, official misconduct, and official oppression. The family of Mr. Nichols, who was black, say that he had been severely beaten. President Biden called for peaceful protest as authorities prepare to release the footage of Friday evening local time, so tomorrow. The city's police chief earlier also urged people to remain calm once the clip is made public. This is not just a professional failing, Police Chief C.J. Davis said of the former officer's alleged conduct. This is a failing of basic humanity towards another individual. The 5 officers, all of whom joined the Memphis Police Department in the last 6 years, were fired last week after an investigation found them to be directly responsible for the physical abuse of Mr. Nichols. Jadarius Bean, Demetrius Haley, Desmond Mills Jr., Emmett Martin III, and Justin Smith are all in custody, jail records show. In a news conference on Thursday, lawyers for 2 of the men said their clients planned to fight charges. Blake Bullen, an attorney for Mr. Mills, said, "Knowing Mr. Mills and the kind of person that he is, I cannot imagine that he has anything but feelings of grief for the Nichols family." A lawyer for Emmett Martin III said the death was shocking to officers. "No one out there that night intended for Tyre Nichols to die," said the attorney, William Massey. The Nichols family and their legal team privately reviewed the video footage of the arrest earlier this week. "He was a human piñata. It was unadulterated, unabashed, non-stop beating of this young boy for 3 minutes," lawyer Antonio Romanucci said of its contents. On Wednesday, the family's lawyers said a post-mortem examination indicated that he had been severely beaten. "My son was a beautiful soul," said Mr. Nichols' mother, Rovan Wells. "Nobody is perfect, but he was damn near." She called her son's death a murder. Are we going to do another Gentle Giant thing? Mr. Nichols was stopped by police on his way home after taking photos of a sunset at a local park, an attorney for the family said. The lawyer said that reviewing the footage that it shows Mr. Nichols being pepper sprayed, tasered, and restrained and kicked. City officials say police officers pulled him over for reckless driving and 2 confrontations occurred. According to authorities, the first happened as officers approached the vehicle and he attempted to flee on foot. They said the second confrontation happened when officers tried to arrest him. Mr. Nichols later complained of shortness of breath and was taken to the hospital, police said, where he was listed in critical condition. Officials said Mr. Nichols had succumbed to his injuries on January 10th, but provided no further detail. An official cause of death has not yet been disclosed. And, by the way, who is there? Reverend Al Sharpton, a U.S. civil rights leader, a race hustler, told BBC News the crime was particularly painful because of the race of the officers. "We fought to put blacks on the police force," he said. "For them to act in such a brutal way is more egregious than I can tell you." Mr. Sharpton also said he believes the outcome would have been different if the alleged victim in the incident was white, because that's pretty much all that he's got. "I do not believe these 5 black police officers would have done this had he been a young white man," he said. Well, I guess the first question that we're going to have is, can we actually get a full side-by-side comparison? Event to event. We can't. The FBI and the DOJ have opened a civil rights investigation into Mr. Nichols' death. So, my question here is, are there going to be riots over this? Now, we're not going to know most of what's going to happen with this until tomorrow. Late in the day tomorrow is when this is going to get released. It's probably going to get released while we're on Contemporary tomorrow. But my big question is, are there going to be riots? Are there going to be problems? Is somebody going to light the Wendy's on fire? this goes against every part of the narrative that we've heard in 2020, in 2012, in 2016. This flies in the face of the entire narrative, that it's only white police officers that kill young black men. And I'd be interested to see how the mainstream media handles this. Let's grab one from CBS. Boston authorities prepare for public outrage over release of Memphis police video. Yeah, it'll be hard to judge how far this is going to spread. But I would anticipate that almost every major metropolitan area is going to see maybe something, if something pops off at all, which again, I don't know if it is. One of the arguments in the other direction for that is the fact that, the classified documents, with the allegations coming out and with a host of other things happening, with the Biden admin to start the riots in the street and tell the world that he can't control them, would be another nail in the coffin to his presidency and open the door for Mayor Pete, or God forbid Kamala, or somebody else to come in and take the mantle up, or even force him to resign over the classified documents. This is from Christina Hager of CBS Boston. Boston community leaders are urging calm as authorities prepare for the public release Friday night of what's expected to be a disturbing police video out of Memphis. 5 former police officers there are now facing murder charges after 29-year-old Tyre Nichols was allegedly beaten. He died 3 days later. WBZI team sources say Mass State Police are now denying requests for time off as they prepare for possible public reaction to the video. In Boston, there's a history of responding to crimes like this, so I would not be surprised if there's a turnout in the streets in terms of what we may witness in this video, said Reverend Dr. Kevin Peterson, who founded the Democracy Coalition. My greatest concern is that the turnout will be one that pushes for reform and justice, and that we will turn out in ways that are loving and empathic. This almost feels astroturfed. More than 2 years ago, after St. George was... Let me correct your editorialization here. More than 2 years ago, after St. George passed away in the vicinity of a police officer in Minneapolis, some protests led to violence in the streets of Boston. No, that was a riot. I've been talking with police officials in different parts of the country, and everyone's on notice. Everyone's activated, said WBZ security analyst and former Boston Police Commissioner Ed Davis. He said the plan to release the video after sunset Friday is not an ideal timing. The police departments that are on notice right now and have heightened their surveillance and prepared for it are doing the right thing. I just hope that it doesn't boil over like it has in the past, he said. Doesn't a little bit of this seem a little bit astroturf to you? Like, this is just happening. We didn't hear anything about this. I don't remember doing anything on this particular story until after the charges came up and right before the video was about to be released. So again, this to me, and I hate to be that guy, but this seems to a lot to me like this is going to be a similar situation to Breonna Taylor, where it didn't quite fit the narrative at the time, but now they're going to try to astroturf a riot out of it after the fact. Remember, we didn't see a single riot for Breonna Taylor until after the St. George riots had started, in spite of the fact that she passed away 2 months before St. George did. And yet not a single rock was thrown, not a single building was lit on fire, nothing, until after the St. George riots. Nobody even heard of her until after the St. George riots had started. And I would even argue with Breonna Taylor, the outrage over her didn't really start to show up until after the St. George riots had started to taper off a little bit. But that's what we have for Tyre Nichols. I'm sure that we'll know more about this after tomorrow. Let's talk the House. From the Daily Wire, Swalwell seems to threaten McCarthy after boot from committee. He'll regret giving all three of us more time on our hands. From Amanda Prestigiacomo. Eric Swalwell appeared to threaten House Speaker Kevin McCarthy after the Democrat was bounced from the House Intelligence Committee. Swalwell, who allegedly had an affair with a Chinese spy, told McCarthy he thinks he'll regret the move, seeming to hint at political retribution of some kind. "We will not be quiet," Swalwell said on Wednesday, referring to fellow Democrat reps Adam Schiff and Ilhan Omar. "Both booted from committees too. We're not going away. I think he'll regret giving all three of us more time on our hands." Well, technically he didn't give Omar more time on our hands, the full Congress did. But at the end of the day, our mission is now to restore the credibility and integrity of this institution, of which the Speaker has so gravely smashed and destroyed. The Democrat added. Let's listen.
Even though we have said publicly these smears are bringing death threats, he continues to do it, which makes us believe that there's an intent behind it. But we will not be quiet. We're not going away. I think he'll regret giving all three of us more time on our hands. But at the end of the day, our mission now is to restore the credibility and integrity of this institution, of which the Speaker has so gravely smashed and destroyed. I'll turn it.
I want to point out the thing that I said yesterday, and that is the fact that Swalwell and Schiff and Omar are eligible for other committees. They don't have to be lock, stock, and barrel on the Intelligence and the Foreign Affairs Committees, respectively. Hakeem Jeffries can go back and give them any other assignments that they want. This is not like Marjorie Taylor Greene or Paul Gosar. Yeah, I almost said Adam Gosar, but that was Paul Gosar. It's not like the situations Democrat put this in where both of those representatives were completely barred from any committee assignment they could possibly have. No. Adam and Eric can go back and work on any committee that they want, and the same with Ilhan. Other than those ones, because of actually very, very concerted reasons. Let's see, I had another one of Swalwell here that I wanted to get to. Talking about death threats. So Greg Price, quoting from Swalwell, who's talking about the cost are the death threats that Miss Omar, myself, and Mr. Schiff keep getting. Let's listen.
Tell about somebody else. So this is purely about political vengeance. The cost is not only removing us from the committee. On the Intelligence Committee, the cost is not only shattering the most precious glassware in the cabinet, a committee that's always been bipartisan. The costs are the death threats that Ms. Omar, myself, and Mr. Schiff keep getting because Mr. McCarthy continues to aim and project these smears against us. Even though we have said publicly these smears are bringing death threats, he continues to do it, which makes us believe that there's an intent behind it. But we will not be quiet. We're not going away. I think he'll regret giving all three of us more time to tell about somebody else.
So tell your constituents and fellow Democrats to stop sending you fake death threats. I bet you anything that these death threats aren't signed. I don't believe you, Eric Swalwell. I don't. Can you show us one? Greg replies to this and says, "Where the hell does he get off his leverage? He leverages unsubstantiated character charges against his political opponents on a daily basis," which is true, by the way. But and again, that is going to be the big one for me, is if you're going to come back and feign and tell us that you got major death threats, I need to see the death threats. Grab one from the Blaze. Speaker McCarthy lays down the law when reporters tried gotcha questions to defend Schiff and Swalwell. From Chris Enlow. Speaker McCarthy shut down a reporter on Tuesday who suggested his decision to boot Schiff from the House Intelligence Committee was hypocritical. At a press conference, PBS reporter Lisa Desjardins asked McCarthy how he can allow George Santos, the controversial alleged serial liar, on House committees, while at the same time booting Schiff and Swalwell from the prestigious House Intelligence Committee. You said that lying to us is something that means you should be removed from the Intelligence Committee, but why is it not a factor for Santos? Desjardins asked, this is a man who should not be on committees, something you have power over. When McCarthy began to answer, Desjardins interrupted him and charged that he was not answering the question. Let's listen.
Intel Committee. Santos on the Intel Committee? Am I allowing Schiff to be on other committees? Go right ahead.
Because you have direct power over who goes on intelligence, you also will be able to pay for your full house taking off.
I do apologize for her to be being very hard to hear. It doesn't look like any room to bump her up either. I do wish that the C-SPAN people would fix their audio problems, but again, a big part of that is he's speaking into the microphone that they're picking up across the switchboard, and she is not.
Not other Democrats, perhaps Representative Omar, but you have said that lying to us is something that means you should be removed from the Intelligence Committee, but why is it not a factor?
Well, let me be very...
This is a man who should not be on committee, something that you have power over.
He's gotten elected by his district, so... Okay, let me be very clear and respectful to you. You ask me a question. When I answer it, it's the answer to your question. You don't get to determine whether I answer your question or not, okay? In all respect. Thank you. No, let's answer her question. You just raised a question. I'm going to be very clear with you. The Intel Committee is different. You know why? Because what happens in the Intel Committee, you don't know. What happens in the Intel Committee, although the secrets are going on in the world, other members of Congress don't know. What did Adam Schiff do as the chairman of the Intel Committee? What Adam Schiff did, use his power as a chairman and lie to the American public. Even the Inspector General said it. When Devin Nunes put out a memo, he said it was false. When we had a laptop, he used it before an election to read politics and say that it was false and said it was the Russians. When he knew different, when he knew the Intel, if you talk to John Radcliffe, DNI, he came out ahead of time and says there's no intel to prove that, and he used his position as chairman, knowing he has information the rest of America does not, and lied to the American public. When a whistleblower came forward, he said he did not know the individual, even though his staff had met with him and set it up. So no, he does not have a right to sit on that. But I will not be like Democrats and play politics with these, where they removed Republicans from committees and all committees. So yes, he can serve on a committee, but he will not serve on Intel because it goes to the national security of America. And I will always put them first, all right? And if you want to talk about Swalwell, let's talk about Swalwell, because you have not had the briefing that I had. I had the briefing and Nancy Pelosi had the briefing from the FBI. The FBI never came before this Congress to tell the leadership of this Congress that Eric Swalwell had a problem with a Chinese spy until he served on Intel. So it wasn't just us who were concerned about it. The FBI was concerned about putting a member of Congress on the Intel Committee that has the rights to see things that others don't because of his knowledge and relationship with a Chinese spy. They brought it to the works of the leaders. I've got that briefing. So I do not believe he should sit on that committee. And I believe there's 200 other Democrats that can serve on that committee. So this has nothing to do with Santos. Santos is not on the Intel Committee. But you know what? Those voters elected Schiff, even though he lied. Those voters elected Swalwell, even though he lied to the American public too. So you know what? I'll respect his voters too, and they'll serve on committees, but they will not serve on a place that has national security relevance because integrity matters to me. That's the answer to your question.
And that's absolutely right. I can't believe how much support I've given to Kevin McCarthy over the past 10 days. It blows my mind how much support I've given him at this point, because he is doing things supposedly, and there are problems that I foresee coming down the future, but he's doing things right. in this moment right now. So, and good on him. And yeah, like I had said before, Adam and Eric can go serve on any other committee. Same with Ilhan. And if Democrats want to put up the vote to remove George Santos from sitting on his committees, then bring the vote to the floor. And I'm going to offer a little bit of advice that Kevin McCarthy's not going to hear, but I'm going to offer it anyway. One thing to point out with that is if Democrats decide to bring a vote down to the floor, take up the vote. If they want to put the vote to the floor and say, should we remove Santos from his posts for lying during his campaign and serially in his life, bring it to the floor. And I want to see the results. I want to see the yeas and the nays. Don't be afraid of what it might do. And yeah, you might have defectors that kick him out of his committees. That might happen. I know that Democrats will all come in lock, stock, and barrel, and you can only afford to lose 4 votes, but yeah, you very well might get Santos off his committees. From the Hill. Pompeo accuses Schiff of leaking classified information. From Julia Mueller. Mike Pompeo, former Secretary of State and CIA Director, on Wednesday accused Schiff of leaking classified information from his former seat on the House Intelligence Committee, from which Schiff has been blocked by new Speaker Kevin McCarthy. Adam Schiff lied to the American people, and during my time as CIA Director and Secretary of State, I know that he leaked classified information that had been provided to him, Pompeo said in a Fox News interview, adding that Schiff's tenure as Intel Chairman almost ruined that committee. Pressed during the interview on why Pompeo didn't come forward to take action against Schiff if he believed classified documents had been leaked, Pompeo said it's a complicated process and it's difficult to pin down precisely what happened. I'm going to push back on that a little bit and say that, Mike, you probably shouldn't have brought it forward unless you had the goods. Or could bring out the goods. And it's part of the same problem that we're having with the classified document gate right now. Is that they can throw all these wild accusations against Trump, against Biden, against Pence, against Schiff, against a host of other people. But because all of it is highly classified, you can't present evidence to the American people. And you shouldn't come out and say it on Fox News, whether it happened or not. But that's what they have for that. But not to be outdone, Adam Schiff goes to try to do the other thing, because I'm willing to bet that Mr. Chuck U. Schumer, in the midst of this, came out and said, "Oh yeah, I'll get you on the Senate Intelligence Committee instead. Just get over here, beat out Dianne Feinstein. We'll get you over here." Democrat Adam Schiff announces bid for Feinstein's U.S. Senate seat in California. From Clara Ferran and Veronica Stracholursi. Adam Schiff announced a 2024 Senate bid on Thursday, launching a campaign for Dianne Feinstein's seat in what is shaping up to be a competitive Democratic primary. I look forward to campaigning hard on this race, meeting Californians where they are and listening to what they want to hear from their next senator. I hope to earn their votes and their trust, Schiff said in a statement announcing his run, which we will listen to in its entirety in just a moment. Though she has filed her 2024 re-election paperwork with the FEC, Feinstein 89 has not yet announced whether she plans to seek a 6th full term next year. 6 terms. Which means she is on her 5th, or just finished off her 5th. No, she's on her 5th full term. Which means she has been in the Senate for 29 years. And has faced criticism over her fitness for the job. Schiff is the latest Democrat to jump into the primary following Katie Porter, who announced her bid earlier this month. And I'm sure that the machine is pissed at Katie Porter for announcing her run. That couldn't have been good, because I'm willing to bet, and they're still going to pull out all the stops to give the seat to a straight white male. But now they have to do it above a female. I think Porter, well, I know she's a white female. They have to go above and over a white female. On a seat that I'm sure that Adam Schiff was probably anointed for already. They probably already had the fix in for him. Multiple sources told CNN earlier this month that Barbara Lee told her colleagues in the Congressional Black Caucus during a closed-door meeting that she plans to run for the Senate as well. Ooh. Oh, this is going to be a messy one. Oh, this is going to be a good one, you guys. In order to get Adam Schiff back on intelligence, they have to jump through hoops to put him up above Barbara Lee, a black female in the Congressional Black Caucus, and Katie Porter, a white female. California Lieutenant Governor Eleni Kounalakis, AG Rob Bonta, and Secretary of Health and Human Services Xavier Becerra, a former longtime member of Congress, are among other potential candidates. That's 4 people. I don't know necessarily about Rob Bonta, but that's 4 people in the Oppression Olympics who are above Adam Schiff. One of which has officially announced, by the way. Get some popcorn for this one, you guys. This one's going to get interesting. CNN previously reported that Schiff had met with Feinstein, a mentor of his, in December to tell her that he was thinking about running, in what a source familiar with the meeting said was intended to show her due respect. So, that's what we have for that, and let's listen to his announcement. Oh, how about this one? This screen. That's where the music is.
I've always believed that what's right matters, that the truth matters, and that decency matters. And when a dangerous demagogue tried to undermine our democracy, I wasn't about to let him. You can't trust this president to do the right thing, not for 1 minute, not for one election, not for the sake of our country.
Adam Schiff is a corrupt politician.
Adam Schiff is a modern-day Joe McCarthy.
Little pencil neck.
A national disgrace. He is unfit to hold office.
This is the story of how I got here. Growing up in the Bay Area, my parents taught me that public service was a noble calling. That belief brought me to Los Angeles, where I took on some of the toughest cases as an assistant U.S. attorney. I prosecuted a corrupt FBI agent turned Russian spy and created the first environmental crimes unit to go after major polluters. I found meaning outside the courtroom by becoming a big brother to 7-year-old David, who went on to graduate from Yale, be a groomsman at my wedding, and is a permanent part of my family. I married Eve, the love of my life, and raised 2 great kids. I went to Congress, where we passed health care for millions over ferocious GOP opposition. Then I took on the biggest job of my life, impeaching Donald J. Trump.
Adam Schiff did masterfully an incredible job.
I found it very powerful.
We have proven Donald Trump guilty. Now do impartial justice and convict him. After all that, I wish I could say the threat of MAGA extremists is over. It is not. Today's Republican Party is gutting the middle class, threatening our democracy. They aren't going to stop. We have to stop them. That's why I'm running for the U.S. Senate. The struggle isn't over. Not for me, not for you, not for our country. Together we can and will win this fight. But I need your help. Donate at adamschiff.com.
Wow. What a presentation. Now, one thing to point out and go with this as well is for San Francisco, for Los Angeles, which is going to carry the vast majority of this election through, I think this does play well. I don't know if this plays well in full California, and I think this advertisement might be a detriment to him. I really do. Now, I know that a lot more Republicans are fleeing California, but we still have large outlying areas of California that are deep, deep red. And Adam Schiff is he's campaigning to San Francisco. Although I guess he is in the LA area, isn't he? But again, just the same. Adam Schiff is campaigning like he's campaigning to Los Angeles. I don't know if this one plays well, but yeah, if you're campaigning to Los Angeles, yeah, it's obvious. The first thing you want to do is, well, my campaign is Trump, 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 Trump. I hate Trump, 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 I hate Trump. He did bring in some good points of like what he did, but again, that was a campaign to Los Angeles. So, best of luck, Adam. If that's everything you have, I hope you enjoy the civilian life. That's all I have to say. Speaking of Trump, let's talk about the ACLU, but not in the way that you think we're going to talk about the ACLU. From Fox News, liberals lose it after ACLU defends Trump being reinstated to Facebook and Instagram. Absolute bollocks. From Jeffrey Clark. The American Civil Liberties Union is under fire from liberals on Twitter after it argued that former President Trump, like it or not, has the right to speak out on social media. This is the right call, like it or not. President Trump is one of the country's leading political figures, and the public has a strong interest in hearing his speech. The ACLU was responding to a Wednesday announcement from Facebook under parent company Meta that Trump's ban from Facebook and Instagram would be reversed in the coming weeks. The backlash against the ACLU was brutal, with many liberal posters claiming that Trump was too dangerous to be allowed back on the site. He has his own social media platform to spread dangerous and hateful propaganda, including anti-Semitism, Occupy Democrats contributor Tara Dublin said in an apparent reference to Truth Social, Trump's social media site. I'm disappointed in this take from you because you know hate speech should never be protected while victims of hate crimes should be. Author Brandon Bird suggested American civil rights suffered under Trump. Hey ACLU, quick question. Do you think Trump's term was a net positive or negative for people's civil rights? Keith Olbermann claimed that private companies have the right to censor speech. Sort of hard to believe that you have mistaken a private website acting under its terms of service and the government trying to suppress the First Amendment rights. Actress Mo Collins said the ACLU was acting like a child. Now let's stick to adulting, ACLU. Greg Proops responded with 2 words. Absolute bollocks. I hate that, by the way. Greg Proops is probably one of the funnier comics out of the 90s. Somebody I had a lot of respect for, but he has to take the partisan line too, but of course everybody does. And of course there's all the receipts. The ACLU is right on this. And I know Grant says that they're trying to get some credibility back. They get it right every once in a while. And again, it's a lot of these people who want to control the narrative. They want to tell you what you're supposed to think of Trump. They don't want you to form your own opinion. They want to tell you what you're supposed to think of it. And if he's continually silenced, then they can come back and do that more easily. It's, again, it's a part of how the news media operated for years. When politicians had to filter themselves through the news media could filter the message and make the politicians look however they wanted. But the Donald bypassed everybody, went straight to Twitter, and went straight to the people. And that was a dangerous thing, because, you can't control the narrative. You can't make this go one way or the other. And for 2 years, they've been able to completely control the narrative otherwise. they take the Truth Social post and they edit it and season it. They don't take every Truth Social post, just the juicy ones, because most of their followers are too afraid to go to Truth Social. But they're absolutely right on this. And I'm a little bit surprised that they got this one right, and I'm not surprised at the backlash that their people came back and brought them. Not even in a little bit. Trump broke these people. And of course, my big question, just like with Fuentes just getting himself banned again, but he was flirting the line from what I understand. He blocked me a long time ago, so I never got to see what he was saying, but from what people who have seen what he was saying were saying, he was trying to get himself banned. He was trying to see what he could get away with. But as far as the Donald goes, I mean, it's... The biggest question we have to ask ourselves about this is he going to use these sites? Is he going to actually do something, or is he just going to have the placeholder there? Because he does have a contract with Truth Social that he has to post there first. And possibly not cross-post for an hour later, or so. Well, that's what we have for that. Got one from the post-millennial here. Katie Hobbs to bus illegal immigrants out of Arizona, but won't say where they're going. Boy, I thought this was racism and hatred and bigotry. From... Do we have an author given on this one? I don't have an author given on this one. Katie Hobbs is continuing her Republican predecessor Doug Ducey's program to bus illegal migrants out of the state, but in a way that she says will be more efficient and humane. It's going to be more efficient and humane because it's led by a Democrat. The actions will be identical, but the news media will pat Katie Hobbs on the back or just ignore her when she does it. And put devil horns on Doug Ducey when he does it. Hobbs told the Arizona Republic on Tuesday that her admin would focus on ensuring the program and associated costs were efficient and humane. We just wanted to make sure we're addressing this issue, and as I talked about many times in the campaign, in a way that's the best use of taxpayer resources, it's something that wasn't a political stunt. Well, it's not a political stunt because, again, as I pointed out, the news media is not going to pay attention to it. Ducey began busing illegal migrants out of the state in May, and Hobbs has expanded the program to include an option of chartered air travel, according to an updated contract signed January 14th. What do you want to bet that Katie Hobbs is going to send them to more red states? She's not giving any details as to where they're going. What do you want to bet that Katie Hobbs' busing winds up in Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, areas of Wisconsin outside of Milwaukee and Madison, downstate Illinois, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida? What do you want to bet that that's the places that they wind up? I don't think they're going to go to sanctuary cities. I think they're going to go where they can dilute the red vote. Let's see. Over 3,000 people were bused from the Yuma area to D.C. during Ducey's time in office, costing the state over $7 million. Last year, Republican lawmakers had earmarked $15 million for the program. Earlier this week, a Yuma official warned the city's on the brink of collapse due to being overwhelmed by illegal migrants thanks to the Biden admin's failed immigration policies. Is it 310 there, though? Well, we've seen what the historic crisis is, so we don't necessarily have to go through this. But yeah, I love the fact that this is going to be completely ignored or be called humane and efficient when Katie Hobbs does it. And she doesn't even have to tell you where they're going. but Doug Ducey is the spawn of evil when he does it. So, let's talk about this. We're going to watch some of this video. I got 2 different videos that we're going to look at here from Veritas. I've got this one here. Pfizer director physically assaults James O'Keefe, and Veritas staff destroys iPad showing undercover recordings about mutating COVID virus. New York Police Department responds. Let's watch some of this and let's see if I don't get shut down on YouTube for this. Do keep in mind that we also stream on Twitch and DLive. If you'd like to see this and for whatever reason we do get shut down.
Hey there. Is this seat taken? You work for Pfizer. My question for you is, why does Pfizer want to hide from the public the fact that they're mutating the COVID viruses?
Is this real life? I'm literally a liar. I was trying to impress a person on a date by lying. This is absurd.
Please don't touch me. Well, this is not. By the way,
Why are you doing
don't
this
tell anybody.
to someone who's just working at a company to literally help the public. You f***ed up. You really did.
All right, I've got the question first is, why is it that you saying you tried to make viruses mutate, why is that impressive to somebody you think you're on a date with?
Please bring the cops as soon as possible. I'm feeling very unsafe.
Can you please unlock your door?
No, don't let them leave.
Please unlock the door.
What is going on here?
Stuff.
How's that?
Please unlock. Please unlock the door. Please unlock the door. Unlock the door. The door. We're trying to unlock the door. Unlock the door. Pfizer not want the public to know that you guys are doing directed evolution?
Bro, what is going on here? It kind of feels like an interview. I don't know, it's freaking me out. I mean, these like flashbacks to that like sting organization of like those conservative people who like randomly go into organizations and then like befriend people who work in these organizations and then report them, which happened to people at Pfizer. So it like freaks me out when people start asking a lot of questions about work. It's so great.
Really? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Bro, why would we back on this company?
Because I just want to know the answer.
They're not probably reporting me. Oh my god, Jason, that'd be horrible. You better not be reporting me or something.
Hey there. Is this seat taken?
What?
Hi. You work for Pfizer. My question for you is, why does Pfizer want to hide from the public the fact that they're mutating the COVID viruses?
Is this real life? What is happening here?
Why?
What is going on here? This is absurd.
Why does Pfizer want to hide from the public that they're mutating the COVID virus?
Oh my god.
You're on video. You're on video.
Pfizer ultimately is thinking about
Mutating
What is
the COVID
going
virus.
on here? I need to call the police right now. This is.
And I know this is virus, so I don't know what's going on.
I don't know what's going on either. This is ridiculous.
So you're on video. I'm a journalist.
Bro, first of all, I'm literally a liar.
He's on video.
Whoa.
You're saying we're exploring how the
Hi,
virus keeps mutating.
Yes,
One of the things
I'm
we're
in a restaurant
exploring
right
is
now, and these people brought cameras out.
why don't we mutate the
I don't
virus?
know what's happening, but I really need the cops here right now.
So
What is this?
please do.
We cannot do this here.
Please do call the police. Please do call the police. Please do.
We can't do this here, guys.
So that's interesting, and the fact like this one actually got violent at the end of it. I've never really seen the end of a Veritas video. I'll be honest with you. I didn't know O'Keefe himself actually came out at the end of all this, but I mean, this guy's out here thinking that smashing the iPad with all these cameras around him is going to save him at this point, and the recording is out there. So again, it's either he's busted, and he's probably going to lose his job at Pfizer on top of this for coming out and giving out company secrets, whether or lying about what the company's doing to try to get a piece of, well, I guess it sounds like he's trying to get a piece of dude, but still. Yeah. Luke Wheat. Guys, it's okay. It's a lie. He's a liar. This, I think, is a different video, but I wanted to grab some of this one as well.
Pfizer ultimately is thinking about mutating COVID?
Well, that is not what...
Nah, it's the same video, so we'll skip over that one too. Ian Fish says, I can find no information about Jordan Tristan Walker whatsoever, so extremely skeptical of this video. Kind of weird the Pfizer director of R&D has no internet presence whatsoever. I'd be willing to bet that this guy got scrubbed as soon as this video came out. Yeah, your BD Mad says, anyone in the modern area who doesn't have an internet fingerprint paid huge money to have it scrubbed, or powers that be unpersoned them, or they're just really good at staying off the internet. Either way, it's suspicious to me. I'm willing to bet that some advance notice got up there that this video was going to get released, and Pfizer, who has more money than God, turned around and made this happen. Or again, this was all a setup and a lie. One of the two. But I'd be interested to see where this goes. Speaking of health news and people talking about things about health that have really no bearing in reality, Biden admin expert claims obesity cannot be treated with exercise and good diet. Dude, I've lost 10 pounds in 2 weeks by changing my diet. Don't tell me that. From Taylor Penley. A physician who came under fire for comments claiming that obesity is more of a genetics than lifestyle, in a 60 Minutes interview earlier this month, is now a member of Biden's USDA 2025 Dietary Guidelines Advisory Committee, which will help determine dietary standards for Americans over the coming years. Dr. Fatima Cody, Stanford, a doctor specializing in obesity medicine at Mass General Health in Boston, claims diet and exercise have little impact on the disease that affects nearly half of all Americans. So what does she think people should do about it? The number one cause of obesity is genetics, Stanford told CBS's Leslie Stahl. That means that if you were born to parents that have obesity, you have a 50 to 85% likelihood of having the disease yourself, even with optimal diet, exercise, sleep management, stress management, she added. Aha. Stanford elaborated during the interview to claim that an overwhelming majority of U.S. doctors hold a bias towards obese patients. Are you saying that doctors don't understand obesity? Doctors, Stahl added. Doctors do not understand obesity, Stanford confirmed. Her comments coincide an uptick in the disease in recent years, with the CDC reporting that the percentage of obese Americans shifted up to 41.9% in 2020 from 30.5% in 2017. Even more concerning statistics from Harvard's University T.H. Chan School of Public Health indicate 43 million preschool-age children were obese in 2010 worldwide, and the numbers have been on a steady incline since the 90s. If nothing is done to reverse the epidemic, more than 1 billion adults are projected to be obese by 2030, the page read. The Dietary Guidelines Advisory Committee consists of 20 nationally recognized physicians, according to the USDA, and was announced by the agency's Secretary Tom Vilsack, as well as the Department of Health and Human Services Secretary Xavier Becerra last Thursday. The committee will be tasked with reviewing the current body of science on key nutrition topics and developing a scientific report that includes its independent assessment of the evidence and recommendations for HHS and USDA as they develop the dietary guidelines for Americans, the USDA's press release on the committee stated. Are you serious right now? Okay. As a person on a slight build who has a hard time carrying weight once he's gained it, I understand. And as a person who has yo-yoed based on dietary changes, partially because of trying to save money for a massive move, or running out of money because I was poor, I can tell you that your diet, just your diet, not even your physical activity, but your diet, plays the biggest role in what it is you're going to look like from the neck down. You know how I know that? Because when I stopped eating carbs during the week and only eat them on the weekends, I lose a bunch of weight. I'm not even a doctor and I understand that. But the prey is out there, these people trying to tell these people that, well, there's nothing you can do, you're just going to be fat forever, so rely on the government and take what we keep you and stay glued to the TV. No, there is something you can do about it. That guy right there needs to rethink what he's eating. From The Blaze. Some document stuff. CNN reporter suggests amnesty over classified documents scandal. A hellacious PR nightmare. A CNN reporter suggested this week that government leaders should be given amnesty for improperly retaining classified documents. Reacting to the discovery of classified documents at the private home of former Vice President Pence, CNN special correspondent Jamie Gangel explained how the developments is a gift to both President Biden and former President Trump. So I actually think this may be a gift in different ways to both President Biden and former President Trump. For President Biden, this has been a hellacious PR nightmare that just drip, 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 she said. For former President Trump, I think this may help him on the legal front because even though his situation is completely different, intent, obstruction, the number of documents that were taken, it does show sort of a widespread issue with these documents. Indeed, Gangel noted that Pence thought that he didn't have any classified documents, but he did. That is evidence there's a problem with the system, Gangel added. Gangel thus predicted that the government may extend some sort of amnesty to former leaders regarding classified documents. Now, again, the problem, is this cute? It's not cute. I'm not even going to bother with that video. The problem is that there's too much information in the government that has to be classified. And these people can go out there and classify anything that they don't want the people to know. Whether it's because it could get somebody killed in an active military operation, or it's because they just think it'll hurt them and be detrimental to them politically, and keep them from getting reelected. Or, conversely, on the other side, it'll help their political adversaries. So no, there shouldn't be an amnesty, but you also have to remember who has the power to declassify and who doesn't. Yes, there should be a look into this. There should be a look into how these got to the places that they were. And I'm still not entirely convinced with Pence. Number one, I had the one news story that seemed to suggest that there was nothing with an actual classified header. It was just a lawyer looked through his documents and said, hey, this might actually be classified, so you need to go tell somebody about this. From the Post-Millennial, National Archives asked past presidents, VPs to check around for mishandled classified documents. From Joshua Young. The National Archives sent a letter Thursday to former presidents and vice presidents, formally asking them to check and make sure they don't have any other classified documents in their possession after former President Trump, former Vice President Pence, and Joe Biden have all been found with classified documents in less than a year. According to CNN, the letter reads, the responsibility to comply with the PRA does not diminish after the end of an admin. Therefore, we request that you conduct an assessment of any materials held outside the NARA that relate to the admin for which you serve as a designated representative under the PRA to determine whether bodies of materials previously assumed to be personal in nature might inadvertently contain presidential or vice presidential records subject to the PRA whether classified or unclassified. While much of the attention of these instances focus on classified information, the PRA requires that all presidential records of every admin, from Reagan onward, must be transferred to NARA regardless of classification status, the letter states. The letter went to representatives for former presidents Barack, W., Billy Boy, H.W., and Ronnie, and former vice presidents Cheney, Gore, and Quayle. Why don't I remember Dan Quayle as a vice president? Because Barack, who is Dan Quayle vice president for? I'm sitting in front of a machine that can give me any piece of information in the world in a moment's notice. But Barack was Biden, W was Cheney, who was covered, Bill was Gore, HW was, oh, I can't think of his name, Dole. I was going to say, I could see his face, I can't think of his name. And Reagan was HW. Wasn't Dole HW's vice president? Am I getting this wrong? I thought Bob Dole was. Huh. No, it was Ford, I'm sorry. I was wrong. No, Dole was a senator from Kansas. Yeah, he was also, according to his Wikipedia page, the vice president for Gerald Ford. I knew he was a vice president. I thought it was for HW. A letter did not go to Jimmy Carter as he signed the Presidential Records Act, which became law after he left office. So, yeah, go check to see if you've got anything. Let's put this all to bed. I think this is just a ridiculous article because, you know, this is the next thing to use to go drag former presidents or political others through the mud. All right. I've got just two more on the economy, and then we will do a thing that I like and a couple things that I hate, and head out of here for the day. So, a little bit of a tale of two sides. From the Daily Mail, talking about the layoff side. TikTok lays bare the devastation of the tech wreck. Google staff who earned viral fame by showing off their lavish offices online post clips of themselves sobbing after being suddenly fired as company lays off 12,000 people. From Raven Sant for dailymail.com. Google workers who earned viral fame on TikTok by profoundly flaunting their aspirational workplaces are now offering a raw and very candid insight into their new realities after being laid off. TikToker Nicole Tsai, who worked at the company's LA office, was among those who had used the platform to share a glimpse into her life as one of the tech giant's employees. Her enviable blogs, which helped her grow her following to more than 36,000, had previously showcased Google's themed meeting rooms, free lunches, and a speakeasy bar that was used during happy hours. But her latest social media updates have been far less glamorous after being among the 12,000 workers laid off by the company. And yeah, by the way, that is some of the stuff that they had going on here. And we can also look at a day in the life.
aircraft hangers, so the decorations hanging from the ceiling kind of looks like an aircraft flying in. Before it was a Google office, this aircraft hanger belonged to Howard Hughes, so there's tons of memorabilia. Next, I'm going to pass by these art installations. They're a really good photo op, or you can sit in there and get some work done. I'm going to head to the coffee shop to grab some coffee and a fruit cup since I missed breakfast, and then I'm heading over to this butterfly themed room to take my first meeting. Then I'm going to head over to the confetti room to take my next meeting. It's so sparkly and beautiful in here. I love that a lot of our rooms are themed. Then I'm going to grab my two favorite drinks, which is this green tea and coconut water. Next, I'm going to go upstairs and grab some lunch. They always have pizza and a variety of different vegetables and meat. The food is always really good, and of course, everything you see in the office is free. On my way out of the cafe, I ran into a doogler, which is a dog googler, and ran into some ghosts. When they were renovating the office, there were a lot of spooky stories from the crew, so there's a whole area in the office where you can listen to them. Then I got more work done and headed over to the massage chairs to wrap up my day. Let me know what you want to see next.
In her early videos, Nicole had been shedding light on what it was like behind the scenes at Google's LA office, which was previously used as an aircraft hangar. The vlogger, who had worked at the company since July 2021, gave a tour to showcase the Zero Gravity and Peter Pan themed rooms, library, speakeasy bar, and arcade games, and all available to employees. In another of her clips, she boasted of the office's art installations, coffee shop, glitzy confetti room, full-body massage chairs, as well as giving a glimpse of the free lunches available to employees. However, Nicole's Google bubble burst amid the 12,000 layoffs, and in one of her latest TikToks, she documented finding out that she'd been made redundant. Titled "A Day in My Life of Getting Laid Off at Google," Nicole provided a voiceover for the clip and said, "I woke up to this really ominous text from my boss, and honestly..." Okay, ABG, if you're listening, you're going to get uninstalled if you continue to do that during a live stream. I will find a different antivirus that doesn't advertise on the main screen. I honestly had no idea what it was going to be about, so I called her the minute I woke up and saw it. I rushed downstairs to find out that I lost access to basically everything. I couldn't even log into my email or check my calendar. So, can I watch this? Looks like it might be trying to load something here. I don't know. I called my boss back, and we just sobbed over the phone because she was also finding out about my layoff for the first time today, too. She continued, "I just felt like a really bad game of Russian roulette, and there was no consistency around who was let go, and it was also not performance-based, so it was really random." Nicole closed the video by admitting she didn't really know what was next for her, but told viewers she would continue to document her journey. Oh, we can watch the video. Oh, this is a different video.
Until I got to the office. Are you from New York even? I got to the office and I was so proud of myself for getting there before breakfast ended. Like, that is so rare for me. I had French toast and a creme fraiche egg scramble, which was super good for a little bit on some independent projects that I have going, but I felt like absolute shit, so I went to the doctor. My COVID tests have been negative, but I was feeling so terrible, and it turns out that I have strep throat, so I went home. Before I went home, there was human defecation in the subway. I get so tired in New York sometimes. Stopped by Walgreens to pick up my meds, and then got a donut at Donut Plant and went home. I'm just gonna lay on the couch until I feel better. The end.
So yeah, that's what they're experiencing right now. And I mean, you hate to see people lose their jobs and lose their livelihoods, but I mean, these are also the people that wouldn't shed a tear on watching you be reduced to absolutely nothing. I want to see people work. I want to see people participate in the economy. But I have a really hard time feeling bad for these people, all the same. And lastly, before we do Thing I Like and Thing I Hate, from MarketWatch on the other end of the spectrum, people who might be getting new jobs, Tesla says it plans $3.6 billion with a B dollar expansion of Nevada Gigafactory. From Mike Murphy. Tesla Incorporated said Tuesday it plans to spend $3.6 billion to expand its Sparks, Nevada gigafactory, where it currently makes batteries and electric vehicle parts. The announcement came a day before the EV maker reports crucial quarterly earnings, after CEO Elon Musk completed his third day of testimony in a trial over shareholder losses following tweets he made in 2018 about taking Tesla private. In a blog post on Tuesday, Tesla said the expansion will include 2 new factories, one for battery cells and one to mass produce its semi-electric trucks, and will add 3,000 jobs. Tesla said the battery facility would have the capacity to produce enough batteries for 2 million light-duty vehicles annually. In early January, Tesla said it delivered about 1.31 million vehicles in 2022. Analysts expect Tesla to increase deliveries to about 1.92 million in 2023. The company did not give a timetable for the project. So, those of you, I understand the second girl in the TikTok over in the Daily Mail is from New York, so that would be a bit of a commute and a bit of a lifestyle change, but to the girl in California who was just the next state over, yes, I understand that you're sad about Google laying you off. The good news is, I know somebody who's hiring. And it's right in the next state over. Not only that, but earlier this month, Tesla applied for a nearly $1 billion expansion of its factory in Austin, according to government filings. So it looks like if everything goes according to plan, and there's always time for something to fall flat, but if everything goes according to plan, there are a lot more people who can get a job in Tesla. Including possibly Nicole Tsai. Alright, let's do a thing that I like and a couple things that I hate, and we'll head out of here for the day. So, a thing that I like in 2 parts because they're interrelated with each other. We're going to start with one from the street. M&M's drops candy spokespeople after backlash to purple character. From Rob Lenahan. M&M's may not melt in your hand, but the button-shaped chocolates have wilted in the face of white-hot right-wing outrage. Mars said on January 23rd that it was taking an indefinite pause from its spokes candies that have raised the ire of conservative pundits. In the last year, we've made some changes to our beloved spokes candies, the company said in a statement. We weren't sure if anyone would even notice. Now, mind you, you made a big ad campaign about body positivity to make sure everybody noticed, but, you know, I'm sorry, I wasn't sure that anybody was going to notice. In the last year, let's see. And we definitely didn't think it would break the internet. But now we get it. Even a candy's shoes can be polarizing, the statement continued, which was the last thing M&M's wanted since we're all about bringing people together. The candy-colored controversy started last year when M&M's listened to a long-standing criticism about how the 2 female characters were obviously sexualized. In older advertisements, green and brown were sometimes presented as competing for the male M&M's, while green would strike sexy poses. Yeah, honestly, I could have done without that too. In January of 2022, M&M's announced it was giving the M&M's characters a new look, personalities, and backstories, to be more in line with and representative of today's society. Green was given sneakers instead of high-heeled boots, while brown's heels were less dramatic. Their poses were also reworked. And then the madness began. Fox News host Tucker Carlson fumed that M&M would not stop until every character was deeply unappealing to totally androgynous, and said that equity would only be achieved when you're totally turned off. In September, Mars said it was adding another color to the 6 candy lineup, a peanut M&M wearing combat boots, and believing in acceptance and inclusivity. Purple was initially only part of ads and online campaigns. And then earlier in the month, M&M's announced the launch of a limited edition candy package featuring green, brown, and purple in an all-female lineup. And once again, Fox News anchor Martha McCallum went into a purple haze, railing on how this kind of package weakens the U.S. on a global stage. All right, we can listen to the streets spin this out into being right-wingers are only hateful and maddening and angry about everything, and completely gloss over the fact that we won in the culture war. See, the expectation in the culture war is that only left-wing boycotts and campaigns are supposed to work. Right wings are supposed to fall to the side while everybody else laughs and points and makes fun and says, oh, look at these evil Christian right-wingers, that they want to sexualize women constantly. But we can't do anything about that. But, oh, if you ever advertise on Tucker, we're going to boycott you into the ground. That kind of crap. Here's a list of all the companies that advertise on Fox News. Boycott every one of them. But realistically, and it's not even just, I mean, there were a bunch of people that came out and said, buy the candies and smash them, which is a stupid idea because you've already paid M&M Mars the money. And M&M Mars is laughing their way all the way to the bank. But you do it, and you come together to do it, and you do it quietly without making a big stink about it or demanding action off of it, and just stop buying their stuff. It's what I've done with Walmart. And I do believe they've walked back some of their assault rifle ammo restrictions. But they got out there, and I also realized how bad Walmart is to most of its employees as well. But Burger King, as much as I love that those little burgers with the lines painted on them that are hit with smoke flavor to make it seem like they're actually grilled on a flame, as delicious as I find those little burgers, I will not step foot in one of those restaurants because they can't stop being too woke. And it's a pain. It's not something I'll ever do. But you know what? Because I do a cheat day on my diet, I cheat on the weekends, and I do eat carbs on the weekends. I think this weekend, when I go up and spend some time with my dad and my grandma, for my grandma's birthday. On the way up there, when I stop for gas, I'm going to buy a pack of M&Ms. Because it's all about the candy. But not to be outdone, and this, by the way, was a massive joke, and CBS says why they put the pants on it. They're not actually doing this, they were trolling. So anybody who actually thinks that there's going to be pants on this bear forever, this was a troll. A&W Root Beer puts pants on polarizing mascot bear Rudy after M&M's pauses spokes candies. From Bradford Betts over at Fox Business. Ooh, Mr. Scott, are there maybe 13 or possibly 15 words that go along with your strawberries and peppers? Randy, I won't step foot in a Burger King because they have a drive-thru. I don't like the drive-thru. I don't like the drive-thru anywhere. Rudy, the great root beer The great root bear, rather, the mascot of A&W restaurants for 60 years, will henceforth be wearing denim jeans. In a Twitter post, the company suggested that Rudy's lack of pants was polarizing. A&W Restaurants puts out a message from A&W. America, let's talk. Since 1863, Rudy the Great Root Bear has been our beloved spokesbear. We knew people would notice because he's literally a 6-foot-tall bear wearing an orange sweater. But now we get it. Even a mascot's lack of pants can be polarizing. Therefore, we have decided that Rudy will wear jeans going forward. Not to worry though, he will remain our official spokesbear. After all, he is unbearably cute and impossible to replace. Cringe. We're confident Rudy will continue to champion good food and good times for many years to come, now in denim. Fox Business has reached out to the company seeking more details on what led to the decision to modify the mascot. It was a troll. They were trolling. They were making fun of M&Ms. And from CBS News, why A&W put pants on its cartoon bear after M&M spokes Candy's gaffe. A&W didn't shy away from the online uproar after M&M's decision to put its cartoon spokes candies on hiatus. Not to be upstaged by a gang of candy-coated chocolates, A&W tweeted on Tuesday that it had decided to clothe its previously pantsless bear character, dubbed Rudy the Great Bear, in denim jeans, because even a mascot's lack of pants can be polarizing. The tweet has since been viewed by more than 4 million times and received 46,000 likes. In fact, Rudy is not undergoing a wardrobe change. The tweet was all in fun, not to mention a chance for a little tongue-in-cheek marketing. A&W told CBS Money Watch. It's now a good time to mention that this is a joke, the company tweeted on Wednesday. Yeah, they trolled M&Ms, and probably got a huge amount of audience participation because of it. And that's hilarious. All through the entire thing of this, I love this. Both that M&M's realizing that it's not about making a social commentary and it's about the candy, and then A&W coming in and trolling them for their misstep. I love all of this. This is amazing. Now for a couple things that I hate. One of the things that I hate, of course, is that I will never get to ride Splash Mountain. Now I kind of wish that I would have had John bring me over there when I was in Florida, visiting him. Because from what I understand, we weren't very far from it. From the Daily Wire, fans bid farewell to Disney World's Splash Mountain as it closed after 30 years due to racism assertions. From Amanda Harding. Disney World's iconic Splash Mountain ride just went on its final run, and some people are not happy about it. Fans took to social media to share a retrospective of the water ride's decades-long past, including footage of the doors to the ride closing for the very last time. The hashtag Goodbye Splash Mountain currently has 1.7 million views on TikTok. I will miss you forever. Goodbye Splash Mountain. One video caption reads, another video noted that the line to board the ride was 2 hours long on its last operating day. Enterprising park visitors allegedly took water from the log flume and were reselling it on eBay for up to $50 a bottle. Well, good. That is so based, by the way. The ride opened in '92 and has been a popular staple of Disney World's Magic Kingdom ever since, with celebrities like Diana going for a ride, but the company announced in 2020 it would shut down Splash Mountain, which was accused of having racist themes, in favor of creating a more inclusive Princess Tiana-themed ride in its place, and I hope that nobody rides it. Tiana is a modern, courageous, and empowered woman who pursues her dreams and never loses sight of what's really important. A blog post from Disney explained, as Daily Wire previously reported. And with this long-standing history of updating attractions and adding new magic, the retheming of Splash Mountain is of particular importance today. The new concept is inclusive, one that all of our guests can connect with and be inspired by, and it speaks to the diversity of the millions of people who visit our parks each year. Some parkgoers called Splash Mountain extremely problematic due to stereotypical racist tropes. It's based on elements from the Disney film Song of the South, 1946, which were included in the ride. Former Executive Secretary of the NAACP, Walter White, said the movie helps to perpetuate dangerously glorified picture of slavery. I don't know anybody who has ever seen Song of the South. My grandmother collects Disney movies and had all the VHSs up until the point that they turned out to DVD. that I can remember, and I never saw a Song of the South on that shelf. The film is set on a plantation and features an elderly black man, Uncle Remus, telling traditional African-American folktales to white children. The movie was not included on the Disney Plus streaming platform, as CEO Bob Iger said it was not appropriate in today's world. You know, now I kind of want to see this movie. And by the way, this coming from a person who read Brer Rabbit in one of my speech team meets when I think that was in middle school. So I'm familiar with Uncle Remus and some of the problematic stuff that goes with that. But the woke mob comes for everybody, I guess, apparently. I can't believe this. Well, I can, I guess. And the other thing that I hate today, from the Daily Mail. It's demonic. 8-foot gold statue with twisting horns and tentacles paying homage to Ruth Bader Ginsburg's fight for abortion rights is erected on New York City courthouse, but locals mock the satanic eyesore. Well, considering that the majority, the reason people were so incensed by Ruth Bader Ginsburg at the end had to do with abortion, I'm pretty sure that the theme fits even if I hate it. From Ronnie Reyes for DailyMail.com. A new gold statue that pays tribute to Ruth Bader Ginsburg's fight for abortion rights has been called satanic and mocked for its horns and tentacles after it was unveiled in New York. The 8-foot sculpture, paying homage to a 5'2" woman, named Now, stands on the courthouse of the Appellate Division building in the Flatiron District, alongside statues of famed lawmakers like Moses, Confucius, and Zoroaster. Unlike the other statues, however, it bears little resemblance to its inspiration. Ginsburg was the first woman to serve on the Supreme Court and died in 2020. The sculpture's hair is like a ram's horns, and its arms have been replaced with protruding tentacles. Yeah. Pakistani-American artist Shajiza Sikander told the New York Times the statue was meant to symbolize a fierce woman and a form of resistance in a space that has historically been dominated by the patriarchal representation. No, you made Lilith is what you made. Many on social media, however, condemned the design, calling it a satanic eyesore that resembles Medusa as it stands on a historic rooftop. No, the tentacles would be on the head if it was Medusa. That's not Medusa. New York City Councilwoman Vicky Palladino was among many on Twitter who believed the statue was more closely looked like Greek monster of legend than the late Ginsburg. No, again, the tentacles would be on the head if it was Medusa. Was there any public input whatsoever before a satanic golden Medusa demon with tentacle arms was installed atop a downtown courthouse? Palladino asked on Twitter, "Who thinks this is okay? How do we go about removing it?" Stephen Miller, who served as senior advisor to former President Trump, summarized it as a visual desecration of the landscape. Radio host Derek Hunter also chimed in on the new statue, writing, "Justice is no longer blind, it's just ugly and stupid." I like that one. Wheels on the shopping cart be like, same, same, same. Oh, the one odd man out. One Twitter user pointed out the statue is too much of a step away from the classical look of the other figures atop the courthouse. Not only does it look satanic and have no historical relevance, but look at the craftsmanship, they wrote. A far cry from the intricate robes of the other stone statues. Another Twitter user echoed these views and said it further emphasized the problem with modern art. I like how it is right next to the old statues so that everyone can very clearly see how ugly modern art is compared to what was historically made, they wrote. This is the world we live in, folks. Strap yourselves in. It's gonna get worse. It'll get better eventually, but it's gonna get worse before that. We're done. We're out of here. Or there's that. Alright. Let's put this eyesore up on the screen and let's head out of here for the day. I'm not even going to put the full screen up because we've got something else to look at here. But I will put the outro music up. So, enjoy that eyesore as we get out of here for the day. Thank you everybody for coming in here and chatting, talking about gardening. I'm going to be looking very forward to looking back through your chat over here. I see some stuff about peaches. When I move, because I didn't start a garden this year. This is the first year in years that I didn't start a garden, but I know that this is just a temporary home for me right now. So, when I move, I do hope to maybe even get some citrus trees indoors as well. Maybe some yard chickens too. I need to be able to retire on food maybe. But we're heading out of here for the day. Thanks to everybody who came by and chatted in the live chat, everybody who came and hung out, everybody who shared the show out, and everybody who is watching back on the replay as well. We'll be back here tomorrow with more news, more headlines, and more focus, by the way, on the live chat as well. That is right. I've been trying to get more focus during the week, but we always dedicate an end of the show to live chat. So come back in, and if you're just lurking, you make sure you get at least one message in so I know that you were here and I can say thank you. The names are recorded in the official notebook of everybody who chats in the live chat during the week, and I say thank you to all of you, and we go through some of your live chat live on air tomorrow at the end of the show, so looking forward to that. Otherwise, come back in, hang out, lurk a little bit, learn something, and get some news from somebody who's probably had to make some of the same decisions you have, and we're out of here for the day. If you're on Twitch, stick around. We're going to go find somebody to raid. Otherwise, we will see you here next time for more news, more headlines, and more contemporary. And until then, I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.